evening, everybody. Welcome to DE Solutions Lab, where we identify an issue in our industry and in our practices. And with the help of some industry experts, hopefully by the end of this hour that we have together, we will maybe have some clarity to make better choices for our practice. Or at least some information as we make our decisions moving forward. I'm Dr. Pam Maragliano-Muniz. I'm the Chief Editor of Dental Economics. And with me today, I am so excited. I love spending time with you guys, Mark Costas and Jordan Comstock. You guys, thank you so much for this tonight.
Well, thank you for having us, Dr. Pam. This is awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
So, I'm rolling up my sleeves as we speak. I'm getting ready to get down to business.
This is one of my favorite things about this event is that it is casual. This is not a, where's my CE certificate kind of thing. This is us as industry people, as practice owners, sitting down, having a chat. I've got my water with me, and we're just going to have a conversation about what's going on in the industry. So this is intended to be interactive. So please, throw questions into the chat, raise your hand, do what you need to do, because you should get your questions answered, because we've got some really great experts with us today. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Jordan and Dr. Mark, take it away.
All right, Mark, I'm going to introduce you. Welcome, everybody. Our PPOs the Devil is what we'll be talking about today. Super pumped. When we were planning this meeting, Mark came up with the idea, and I fell in love with it. So, Mark, let's introduce you. So, if you don't know Mark, where have you been? Mark's the host of the Dentalpreneur podcast. He's an international keynote speaker. He's the founder of Dental Success Institute. You also do the Dental Success Summit, which is super popular. I've gone to it every year. I think you've started it. CEO of Dental Success Network, which I'll let you explain that at the end, Mark, what it is. And I've read your book, Pillars of Dental Success. In fact, when I onboard new employees, I have them read your book, Mark, so they can get a better understanding of the dental industry. So thank you for that. But
thanks, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Costas.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for having me, Jordan. This is a great invite. Dr. Pam, you're awesome. I am thrilled to be here. Big crowd tonight. This is fun. And I will introduce Jordan Comstock. Jordan Comstock, he used to manage a lab in Salt Lake City. That's how he got introduced to dentistry. Crazy what's happened with his career and the company that he founded since. He's the founder of Boom Cloud. He's been over 15 years in dentistry. He's the co-host of another podcast called the Navigating Dental Podcast. Dental insurance podcast. He's a founder of Boom Cloud. Like I said, he hates dental insurance, but he loves guitars. And he's helped over 1,000 practices grow membership programs. Jordan and I, just as a little bit of a background, we got to know each other years and years ago when we were both starting on the speaking circuit. And it's funny when we look back about the events that we used to speak at and the size of those events. They were teeny and our companies were teeny, and we've kind of grown together and evolved, I guess, as speakers and business owners for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been fun to watch you.
Likewise, bro. All right. So I'm going to talk about why I think basically insurance companies are the devil. We're going to give you guys some strategies on how to combat that. Mark's going to go into a lot of numbers and strategies that he sees helping practices, with his consulting career, owning multiple locations and helping multiple locations. So from my perspective, insurance companies are really the worst partners ever. They attack your cash flow, they hurt your profit margins, and they jeopardize your patient experience. If I had a employee or a partner that did any of these things, I'd fire their ass. I'm just going to say it right there. That's how I operate. If they touch any of those things, that's like sacred business principles. So that's what they're doing. And that's what you're doing when you sign the dotted line with the PPO contracts, from my experience in talking to practices. In addition to that, we've got this awesome graphic here. That shows you got insurance companies that are forcing you to discount, and you're making dollars off of your backs. These are some of the top CEOs in the insurance companies and their yearly salaries, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, just for the people, I'm used to talking to, as you are, to a podcast audience that's audio only. And if you can't see what we're looking at here, there's 6 CEOs of some of the biggest PPO plans in the world. We have the Cigna CEO, we'll call him David. He's making $19.9 million per year. Humana CEO, we don't even give his first name. He's making $16.4 million per year. UHC CEO David, again, is also making $18 million a year. The Aetna CEO Larry is making $23 million a year. The Anthem CEO Gail, she's making $17.1 million a year. And the Molina CEO Joseph is making $17.8 million per year. And this is coming from companies that refuse to increase their fees, that are getting more and more picky about the types of procedures that we're allowed to do. They have their hands in our pockets all the time, yet these CEOs are making ridiculous amounts of money. So we are the pawns in their little chess game, which is unfortunate, but I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of the things that you need to do if you are accepting dental insurance, and how to make sure that you remain profitable when accepting dental insurance. So I will give the counterpoint to Jordan's get rid of it no matter what, under all circumstances. So I'll be the counterpoint to that.
And just, my 2 cents, it looks like the Humana CEO is probably the biggest slacker out of the 6.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he makes a living. How does he survive on only $16.4 million per year?
Yeah, so they're forcing you to take discounts and definitely profiting off the backs. Now, I am a capitalist. I believe in everyone building their own wealth, but with insurance, it just seems like a legal scam. That's kind of how I explain it to my wife. It's a legal scam.
Yep.
So kind of interesting. So in addition to insurance companies forcing discounts and really being complicated to work with, we've got inflation that's now kicking in for 2021. The current inflation rate, I looked at it this morning, at 6.8%. So you got your discounts, your forced discounts on PPO discounts, and inflation kind of squeezing the dental industry. It's really interesting. The ADA actually just sent out like a warning letter. I think it was December 1st, earlier this month, basically trying to convince insurance companies to be open to negotiating with dental practices. And I know how hard it is to negotiate with an insurance company. They're well equipped legally, and they know all the negotiating tactics in the book. But ADAs, I found that interesting reading that article earlier this month, that they're talking about the issue that inflation is kicking in, and then the PPOs are really making it, well, they're both making it worse. So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention today, because I think it's really interesting, the situation that we are in the dental industry now and moving for next year, 2022.
And I'll say that number that you put out there, Jordan, is for goods and services, 6.8%. They say that it affects certain categories more than others.
Sure.
But I think that anybody that owns a dental practice or works inside a dental practice understands the reality of what's happening with the actual job force, and the amount of the increase that we are all seeing in what people are, wage inflation, what people are demanding in order to stay on with your company. Hygiene, you guys know that a huge percentage of hygienists aren't coming back to the workforce as regular W-2 employees, and they're working for temp companies and asking $60 an hour. Your office manager just recently got a 20% raise in order to keep her from going next door. We're seeing a lot of this stuff happening. So 6.8% is bad news, but we know that the reality is that
higher. Just
to stay in business, we're having to pay a lot more for operating expenses.
Yeah, I heard that wage inflation was like around 32%. I read that briefly, so I mean, don't quote me on it, but that's in the dental industry. I think wage inflation is pretty heavy. I mean, even in my own company, wage inflation has taken a toll this year with people that I work with, and I'm in the software industry. So it's definitely time to be very conscious on what PPOs are doing to the industry and to your practice from a financial standpoint and a culture standpoint. And then in addition to that, we got weird economics happening with inflation and the recession last year, COVID. It's been wild. So I found that interesting, and I wanted to share that with y'all. If you want to go read the full article on ADA, you can find it pretty easy there. It's on their news website or their news page. So a couple tips, quick tips from me to combat inflation is one of the things we're going to be talking about is starting a membership plan. That's my expertise in the industry. And that's what I've devoted all my time on. I'm the membership geek in the dental space. We're going to talk about focusing on recurring revenue and how to increase the average revenue per patient. That's probably the most important metric that we can talk about here in the industry. We're going to talk about, how members become, they buy more. And we're going to talk about, it's very important to look at raising your prices. A lot of our practice right now at BoomCloud are raising their prices January 1. And I think that's a good practice to do every year. And then the big tip is cut out PPOs, which next slide, we're going to talk about our good buddy Ben Tuine. I'll show you guys a picture of him. He's provided these tips for this event today. I actually do a course with Ben called Fire the PPOs, and we go in depth in these. These are the 7 tips for cutting out PPOs. The first one is create an in-house membership plan, and we'll go in depth here in a minute on that. You want to build your insurance profile. I mean, you got to diagnose your situation. You got to know how many active patients are in each plan that you're in contract with, what revenue is coming in and is generated from each plan, and what is the forced discounts is what I call them, forced discounts. A good tip is also using fairhealthconsumer.org. You can type in your zip code and see the current market pricing for all the services in a dental practice. It's a wonderful tool. My team uses it every day to help our practices with membership plans. You got to understand how you're contracted and with whom. There's a lot of umbrella networks out there, Mark. I don't know if you know anything about umbrella networks, but I think they're nasty.
Got my mute on and I've got my camera off, so I'm just.
It's Bob. Hi, Bob. I know, Bob. Step 4 is identify which plans have the best out-of-network benefits. After talking to Ben Tuine, who does this all day, every day, he suggests that you look at Aetna, Cigna, Guardian, and MetLife. Most of the time, they have the best out-of-network fees. So he recommends practices look at those and start there. You want to train your team to scale up your membership plan and on the processes of cutting out PPOs. You want to scale your membership plan because we'll talk about the benefits of recurring revenue and owning a revenue platform is what I call it. And then step 7, you want to execute or rinse and repeat and fire as many PPOs as you can. So that's the quick tips that we have here. At the end of this webinar, I'll offer a free course that goes in depth with our good buddy here, Mr. Ben Tuine. He does a lot with dental economics, writes a lot for them as well. Wonderful resource. Okay, so with all that said, we know that PPOs are a problem. They're attacking some pretty critical things in the business. And from my perspective and helping so many practices in the industry, membership programs are the solution because they help you create recurring revenue. They drive and increase loyal patients, and there's a membership effect. Anyone here in the chat, if you've got Amazon Prime, put Prime in the chat real quick. Once again, if you've got Amazon Prime, put Prime in the chat. I'm guilty. I think I got like 10 packages in the office today. It's Christmas. It gets really crazy here. Okay, those of you that have Prime, put multiple $ in the chat if you've noticed that you spend more with Amazon. So if you use Amazon Prime and you like, I get a package on the porch every day. Oh, look at that, Mark. Mark is a big spender.
What? Oh,
probably
did I
your
do that?
Your wife
Did I do
is
that
a
out loud?
yeah.
Whoops,
Dude,
guilty.
I spend so much with Amazon. The average Amazon Prime member spends, I think, like $1,800 a year, or $1,500 a year with Amazon, and we've done similar case studies in dentistry where patients spend 3 times more with practices when they become members compared to non-members. So very interesting. So there's my every day is Christmas, Jody, at my house too. It totally is. So with that mindset, that I call that the membership effect. We live in a subscription economy. It seems like every industry is coming out with a subscription plan. I pay for a car wash plan. I pay for the Netflix and all that fun stuff. I used to have a list of all the stuff I paid. It's kind of gross, but I think the reason why it works is because it's budget friendly, it's convenient, and it's very useful and valuable, especially when you talk about dental membership plans, which I'll show you guys here in a little bit. What those plans look like. But we're seeing in the industry that there's several buckets of practices. The heavy PPOs. Some of the problems that they're dealing with is the forced discount. Mark is going to talk about if you can't get out of all PPOs, he's going to give you guys some strategies and some tips on how to work with them. But I do suggest getting rid of as many as you can. The fee-for-service practices is interesting because it's everyone's dream to become the fee-for-service practice. As long as I've been in dentistry, everyone's always talked about becoming FSS, right? And they've got problems too. It's called retention problems. And, I'm in Utah where every practice seems to sign up with every PPO under the sun. And, an out-of-network patient can go down the street and get a discount in an in-network office. Right. So retention and loyalty is something that you need to focus on, and a membership program will help you with that. And then you got your existing people that may do like cash discount plans or even manually managing membership plans. The issues they may have is scalability and automation. And we'll talk about how you can do that because when you have a membership program to help you combat insurance and cutting out PPOs, it is a volume game. It's not going to work if you're going to get 20, 30, 50 patients on. It's got to be hundreds of thousands. And I'll show you how practices are doing that. But before we go too deep into that, Mark, I'm going to pass the slides over to you so you can talk about if they can't get out of insurance and what they can do and some of what you see in the industry, because I think what you see is way more in depth than what I see.
Yeah. Well, I have the privilege of working, DSN has about 1,100 members inside our ranks. And then we have a private coaching group, which is just under 200 members. So I get to see behind the scenes, behind the curtain of a lot of different dental practices. I'm looking at P&Ls all day, every day. We're looking at profit margins, EBITDA. We're looking to decrease overhead, increase profitability every way that we can. And this is for dental practices that are, heavy PPO, like Jordan was talking about, completely fee for service. And then what we call the hybrid model, which is a little bit of mix of both, which is, I think most dental practices out there are some level of hybrid. But, to your point, Jordan, in Salt Lake and really, competitive markets, I would say some dental practices are 80% plus of their revenue would come from a PPO, and then maybe 20% would come from a fee for service model. Yep. So there's always room to redistribute those percentages in one way or the other. Obviously, the ideal unicorn perfect scenario would be 100% fee for service, and to get 50 new patients per month, 20 per doc. That is something that is becoming more and more rare in the world, but not impossible. All right. So I want to just talk about, if you are going to accept PPOs, there's a right way to accept PPOs. There's a right way to analyze whether or not you're profitable on these PPOs. And there's also a logical and stepwise way to start eliminating the underperforming or the lower fee PPOs and how to analyze that. So I'll just go over really quick, just kind of the way that we analyze different dental practices. We put them in specific buckets. We talk about, we have a black belt, brown belt, blue belt, and white belt categorization. So we do it just like martial arts. And they go along with these phases, phase 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you are the typical practice in the United States, you have an overhead of 68 to 72%. And that's excluding doctor wages. So if you add another 30% to doctor wages, then you're looking at 2% profit to negative 2% profit for the average dental practice in the United States, which is not very good. You might as well be an associate at that point, especially if you're losing 2% in profitability every single month. So it is our contention that, if you are producing the dentistry, you should have the lowest overhead possible, and you should maximize your profitability in order to make it worth all the aggravation of being a dental practice owner, and the risk and the liability and everything that comes along with being a dental practice owner. So if we're looking at our phases, a phase 0 would be greater than 60% overhead. And that would be at least 50% of the practices in the United States. So the median is 68 to 72% as far as the most recent statistics that I've seen. A phase 1 practice in our organization would be around 60% overhead. And you see these categories 30, 30, 30, 10. 30 is payroll. 30 is fixed and variable expense. 30 is doctor compensation, with 10% left over for the doc as far as profitability. Now, right away, I know that a lot of you guys that have been with other dental consultants or coaches or have read articles, they like to say that payroll should come in between 20 and 25%. I'm not arguing that point, but in this particular phase, we're focused on making the dentist more business savvy and allowing them to overpay a little bit in the payroll area, because human capital is the most important thing. So before we start, slashing payroll, we're going to work on fixed and variable expenses first. Okay. That's the low hanging fruit. And then as we ramp up revenue in phase 2, 3, and 4, that payroll is going to go down naturally by increasing the revenue. Phase 2 would be 30% goes to payroll, 25% goes to fixed and variable expense, 30% still goes to doctor compensation. But now we're seeing a 15% profitability. Things are starting to look good. That's an overall 55% overhead practice. And this is what this phase 3 practice is, what the DSOs and the private equity companies are looking for when they're looking to buy practices and roll them up. Those are significantly profitable practices. 20% EBITDA here. For this phase 3 practice, we have 25% would be allocated to payroll, 25% to fixed and variable expense, 30% goes to doctor compensation, 20% comes back to the owner as profitability. So in just rough numbers, if this particular practice was $1 million practice, 20% EBITDA, that would be $200,000 to the owner without having to pick up a handpiece. Okay. And then a phase 4 practice is so the phase 3 practice would be a black belt practice. The phase 4 practice would be like the samurai, right? This is like a black belt and 2 stripes. These, and we have a handful of these, more than a handful in our coaching ranks, where the overhead is hovering between the high 30s and the mid 40s. We call those phase 4 practices. That is when the EBITDA gets to 25% to 30%, and it's getting really, really profitable. So practices like this, you'll see $1 million practice spitting off $300,000 to $350,000 in profit. And that's if the doctor's not even picking up a handpiece. That's just strictly profit. And then you build a mega practice where it's $2, $3, $4 million, or you have several of these phase 4 practices. That's when things start to get really fun in the multiple practice or big practice world. So those are the categories that we use well, those are the ways that we categorize different dental practices according to the numbers alone.
Right on. You want me to move to the next slide? I think I have control, so I'm your little helper.
Yep. Thank you. So, calculating supply and material cost, I think, is really important. And this is where we're talking about whether or not you're a fee-for-service practice or you are accepting PPOs. Obviously, the stakes are much higher if you're accepting PPOs. And it's really interesting to me when I'm talking to a dentist about their profitability and why they've decided to accept a certain PPO, one or another. A lot of times they don't know why. They just know that they need to fill chairs, and they don't even know if they're profitable accepting certain PPOs at that particular fee schedule. Say it's 30% off their usual and customary. They don't even know if they're profitable at that level because they don't know where they are as far as profitability and overhead to begin with. So that can really compound on itself when somebody isn't a sophisticated enough business owner to say, okay, my overhead is this. Here is my cost per procedure. Here's exactly how much it costs for me to produce this crown or this extraction or this implant. Unless you know those exact numbers, there's no way for you to be able to make an intelligent and business-wise decision on whether or not to accept a PPO or not. It's very simple to say, I just don't want to accept any PPOs because I don't want to discount my fee schedule. I'm worth $1,200 or $1,400 or $1,600 per crown, and I'm not willing to take another penny less. And I respect that 100%. If you can get the patient flow and you can get the people to pay that money,
Sure.
by all means, do it. But the reality is some people have to take PPOs for one reason or another. I like to see a mix of like maybe 2 or 3 PPOs that they accept, usually associated with a major employer in town, an Air Force base or an Army base or something like that, or just a segment of the population that you want to serve, like the police and fire departments in town. We accept their insurance. The teachers union, we accept their insurance. There's certain types of populations that we just enjoy servicing, and we will accept those insurances even if we're taking a little bit of a hit. But I will say that we know exactly how much it costs to produce our production. So you can go off to the next slide there, Jordan.
There you go, buddy.
So here are the types of charts and Excel spreadsheets that we utilize in our practices. I know that's impossible for you guys to see, but there are a certain number of things that you guys have to calculate as far as calculating cost per procedure, right? So cost per procedure is how much it costs to produce something in your dental practice. So we know exactly that this particular crown prep, the disposables on this crown prep are going to cost me what? $24.34. That's my total supply cost. But then I also have a lab fee. In our case, we get huge bulk discounts because I am affiliated with a large network in DSN. And the lab fee for this particular lab is $39, right? So we have $24 in disposables, $39 for a lab fee. And then I have to calculate how much it costs to support that operatory for that period of time. So if it takes 45 minutes to prep this crown, I need to know that it's going to cost 45 minutes for that particular assistant to man that room. The front desk has to support that with, scheduling appointments and getting people back. There is heating and cooling for that room for that 45 minutes. So all of those things are calculated based on division, right? So you're going to take the total overhead for the power bill. You're going to divide that by the number of days in the month that you're actually working, and then you're going to divide that again by the amount of time that it takes to do this particular procedure. So we know very, very accurately how much it costs to do, a root canal per canal. We know very, very accurately how much it costs to produce a crown, an implant, how much it costs to break down a room. That's a level of sophistication that you must have, particularly if you are accepting PPOs, because the profit margin is going to be less than it is if you are a fee-for-service practice. Now, if you mix a primarily fee-for-service practice, or you're only accepting 2 or 3 PPOs, and you are this sophisticated as far as calculating, your overhead and controlling your profitability, that's when really, really great things happen. That's when you get to the black belt status and the mastership status. So, it's tedious and it's laborious, especially in the beginning, to calculate all this stuff. But once you calculate it, you have this data forever. And then you can start making really sophisticated decisions when it comes to which PPOs you're going to accept, which ones you have to drop, which ones you're actually losing money on, which we've done the analysis. And a lot of these, lower compensating PPOs, you're actually losing money for every patient that comes through the door. But until you get this level of sophistication about your dental practice, you'll never be able to make those high level decisions as a CEO of your dental practice.
I'd like to add something there too. So back in the days, Mark, when I managed my dad's dental lab, the number one question I asked whenever we did like a crown for a practice, I would always ask, hey, dude, dad, whatever.
Dad, dude.
Hey, father, how much money do we make when we sell a crown to a dentist? And he's like, I don't know, maybe like X number. And I'm like, what did you just say? Maybe like? And I did this exact same exercise that Mark is talking about right now. And that changed everything for the dental lab. We understood just everything we did. And we approached things with all this data in our heads, and we made better decisions.
Yeah.
And we found out that we were losing money on certain clients too. Every time we did a crown, I'm like, you can't, if you scale that, what happens? Well, you get more losses. You don't get more revenue.
Oh,
right?
don't worry. You'll make up for it in volume.
No, it doesn't work that way. It definitely scales, but it goes negative.
Yeah.
So no, I love this, Mark. I couldn't agree with you more. And I remember doing this exercise at the dental lab, and it was just it was awesome. My dad's like, oh my gosh, that's what we're doing. Oh, I thought it was like maybe like.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because we weren't taught this stuff in dental school. We barely had enough time to learn, the basics of preclinical and clinical stuff. We get out and we're expected to, manage these million to multi-million-dollar operations. And we were never taught this stuff. It's a lot of kind of figuring out as we go along. But the bottom line is the difference between the average dental practice, 68 to 72%, where people are actually losing money. They don't even know they're losing money. They don't know that they'd be making more as an associate down the street than they are owning a dental practice. The difference between those people and the people that are black belt level in our organization are people that just take the time to learn and educate themselves and learn how to run a sophisticated business. That's all it is. Just, it could be a dental lab, Jordan. Yeah. It could be, a membership, a membership software company. It could be any company. You need to know exactly how much it costs to do business.
Oh, absolutely. I posted a book in the chat. It's called My Personal MBA. Go get that. It's a quick book on all the stuff that we're talking about here, all the details. Sweet, brother. I just switched the screen there, Mark.
Yep. Just more examples. Composite. We know how much it costs roughly to do a composite per surface, how much it costs. It costs $1.61 to break down a room. Cost to deliver a crown, it costs $3.86. We pretty much know how much it costs to do everything in the dental practice based on the disposables, the amount of time, the overhead for the room for that period of time. We even took the time to count how many drops were in, the bonding agent. And we know how much it costs for a drop of bonding agent for the particular bonding agent that we use for composite. So like I said, it's tedious, but it pays off dividends for the life of your practice if you do this exercise.
So know your numbers. It helps you and make the right decisions. Is this another example here, Mark?
Yeah. Non-hygiene exam, $24.
Yeah. So real detailed oriented.
Yep.
Definitely. Love it. You have was that what you wanted to go through?
Yeah. Back to you, brother.
So, okay. So really know your numbers. That's how you're going to make the best decisions to cut out PPOs and really the website, Craig, I mentioned, he just asked a question. Hi, Craig.
Oh, Craig. What's up, Craig?
Craig, website was, I think it's fairhealthconsumer.org. I'll make sure we send an email blast about that too. I think it's really helpful there to understand, what the going rates are, but do what Mark said. That's the back end version of Fair Consumer Health. So your profitability per procedure and all that stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm just geeking out, but I love doing stuff like that. So
yeah.
Shifting gears, as you're cutting out PPOs, the number one tip from Mr. Ben Tuine is starting a membership plan. Every practice that comes to me in our company, the industry, their number one goal is to reduce dependence on dental insurance or fire dental insurance or whatever verb they want to use. It is really interesting because we're obviously seeing a lot of practices become hybrids, Mark, where they're building strong membership patients and they're still using a few PPO plans because, like I said, you can't fully exit. I mean, you can, but depending on your market, there's a lot of variables there. We see variables all over. But let me tell you about this opportunity to grow a membership program. Over 150 million Americans lack dental insurance. Just last year, 2020, fourth quarter, there was 28 more million Americans that retired because of the pandemic. I think it was 20% higher than what we normally see.
Wow.
When people retire, they lose their dental benefits, and we both know, Mark and Pam, that when we age, we need more dental care. I saw it all the time.
I think 20 million of those Americans were hygienists.
It feels like it, you know,
and office managers.
Like
yeah.
So we talk about, some of the ratios of maybe 80% PPO, 20% fee for service. The market is out there. It does require some marketing and getting to know and attracting, uninsured, but the market is out there. The stats do not lie. My definition of a membership program. Membership plan is alternative to dental insurance. It's not insurance, never call insurance. It's managed by your practice, where patients pay an automated subscription, monthly or yearly, to get access to certain benefits and savings to your office. My best example is Amazon Prime. We all kind of did our vote, but for your patient's teeth, right? So Amazon Prime, but for dental care. Think of it that way. This is an example of what a membership plan is. This is one of the best ways to combat and attract more uninsured patients, but combat the PPOs by building, some of the benefits that a membership program brings to the table, which I'll go into the detail. But this is an example plan for a preventative. Mark, you do a unique plan that actually is more and more practices are doing it. I call it a discount only membership plan, where patients pay a yearly or even a monthly subscription, and they get discounts on all procedures. There's no like exams included. This is discount, which works very well in certain demographics. But I would say that based off of what I'm seeing in industry, this is the most popular type of membership plan. We call them preventative care membership plans, or pro-fee plans. So those are the cool thing about a membership plan. I would recommend you offer a monthly and a yearly subscription. I'm big fans for both. They both have really amazing benefits. If you're doing monthly subscriptions, which in this example here, it's $30 a month. That's what I call under the radar payments, or when Jordan Comstock pays $30 for 10 years to a gym he doesn't go to type plan. So that's, a lot of people do that under the radar payments. Think about it. It's almost Christmas. A lot of people are spending money. If you're doing a yearly subscription plan, they may see that in their bank statement and be like, oh, we can't get little Billy his bike, right? So that's why I like monthly, but yearly is amazing too, because there's a lot of cash flow benefits. You get it up front. Also from my stats though, we see a lot of higher churn or cancellations with memberships when they are yearly compared to monthly, which is really fascinating.
It's hard to grab that. It's hard to grab that that person again. You have to resell it almost, right?
Yeah, you kind of have to resell it. Where when a monthly subscription is an evergreen, or an evergreen model, right? Is what John Warlow talks about it. Meaning it's under the radar. It continues on and on and on and on, like that gym that Jordan doesn't go to. I do go to a gym, but I still pay for the other one. Okay, so pricing will depend on your demographics. We have some interesting trends that we're finding here at BoomCloud, that the most successful practices look at the median income in their city or their multiple cities that they're working in, and their membership programs. And this is, I think, happened naturally, but we're looking at the data. Most membership programs, you look at the median income, like an example here, we got Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Average or the median income is $87K a year, and their membership program, they're charging between $26 or $263 a year, all the way up to $492, and that percentage is 0.30% to 0.56% of the median income. So it's really important to understand the demographics in your area when you're structuring membership programs. We had a practice that was in a high poverty area, low population, and they wanted to do what the average national practice was doing, which was like $400 a year. And in his particular situation, there's no way they're going to adopt that membership program and patients are going to say yes to.
Right.
So it's really important to know your demographics. Very simple exercise. My team works with all of our practices on understanding these numbers so that we can price your membership program appropriately so they can get adopted by patients and really help you with these practice benefits right here that we're going to talk about. One of my favorite benefits to creating a dental membership program is it helps you create a robust patient loyalty system, which every business needs, no matter what industry you're in. You need some type of loyalty program or to keep people loyal. Costco, Amazon, Prime, a lot of companies understand the importance of this. So let's replicate what successful companies are doing and implement it into our practices. My favorite benefit is that it generates predictable recurring revenue. That is revenue that comes in whether you do dentistry or not, whether you're in Hawaii or not, whether there's a pandemic or not. It comes in every month, and it's a cash flow strategy too, which is extremely important in our industry, because when you have good cash flow, it can help you smooth out the feast and famine months. We all know that there's September. At least when I was at the dental lab, that's what we called it, September. Mark, I don't know, is that what people call it still, September?
Still sucks.
Still sucks. Okay.
Yep.
Another cool thing about recurring revenue and what membership plans do long term is it helps increase the valuation of your business.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you give you a platform to help cut out PPOs and still have that cash flow coming in a way to move the people that you're cutting from PPOs over to a membership plan. I've talked about this a couple of times, but members buy 3 times more than non-members. We looked at practices across the nation, and it's the Amazon Prime effect or the membership effect that we all just admitted to, right? We all rose our hands and said we get the daily packages on the porch. Over the pandemic or the COVID recession, whatever we're calling it these days, I don't even know. Membership programs can act as a recession-proof strategy. We saw practices that went through the COVID shutdowns. They still had healthy recurring revenue coming into their practice. A lot of practices started membership programs and they still were able to sell membership plans to their patients and generate cash flow. And then in this case, it could be an inflation strategy as well, because when you get people on a revenue platform, is what we call that, meaning they're all signing up and paying subscriptions yearly or monthly. If you needed to increase pricing, you could do that pretty easily. In fact, a lot of our practices right now are planning for raising their memberships and their service pricing in Q1, January of 2022. And it's almost like a flip of a switch. When you have a membership program, you can increase the membership fees, and almost the next month, or most likely the next month, you see an influx of revenue into your practice. So I'm big believer in making sure you have a revenue platform, and that's what a membership program does to help combat inflation. Some homework. I know we're running quick on time. Some homework I have for you. Get this book. It's called The Automatic Customer. It's by John Warlow, one of my favorite authors in the entrepreneur space. He was recently on Mark's show. I'm really jealous because I've followed John forever. In fact, this book, I read this when I was at the dental lab, and this is the inspiration that helped me create Boom Cloud. So that's one of the reasons why I like making everybody read it, because you get a little piece of my journey, but it's actually super valuable. And go listen to the podcast episode on Mark's show. What episode is that, Mark? Do you know by heart?
I don't. I wish I would have.
You're fine. You're fine.
I know. I blew it.
You will email it out to everybody.
Okay. Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes from that book, which is true because I've managed a dental lab during a recession and a software company with recurring revenue in a recession, and big differences. One of the best parts about creating automatic customers through subscriptions is that you insulate yourself from the worst of a potential recession. That is very true. I've seen both ends of that with the companies that I've managed, and I've seen practices during challenging recession times go through that. And even in personal recessions, as you're cutting out PPOs, maybe this could be a different good strategy. All right, I'm going to shift gears here, and then me and Mark have a lot of free things we want to give you guys. I want to talk about some case studies of what practices are doing to increase their membership programs and give them a solid platform to cut out PPOs in the practice with recurring revenue. So this first practice started in the pandemic in California. Within 2 months, we took this snapshot. This is our dashboard of Boom Cloud. We help you track and monitor your membership program and help you scale it. This particular practice signed up just under 300 practices during COVID in California with like some of the tightest restrictions. And in two and a half months, they generated 7K, almost just under 7K in recurring revenue for the practice. And they did not have a membership program in place before coming to Boom Cloud. They utilized their uninsured patients, and then just new patients coming in, they educated them on their membership program. This next one here, you can see they're generating over $26,000 in monthly recurring revenue, whether they do dentistry or not. Over 1,000 active membership patients to their membership program. Once again, all these practices I'm showing you are solo practitioners. They didn't have a membership program before and scaled up within 1 to 2 years. These guys used Facebook demographics to target 55 and up communities in their local area, and they educated them on their membership program and signed them up, as well as their existing uninsured and existing inactive patients. I would say that's the lowest hanging fruit in the office. You want to reactivate the inactive patients and get the uninsured patients to come back in and generate a recurring revenue stream from them. And then back to Ben's 7 tips of cutting out PPOs. Once you get a good membership program in place and your practice has good practice signing up patients with that, then you can start looking at PPOs, cutting PPOs, and then converting those patients over to the membership plan. Last case study here that we're seeing here in the industry. This is a practice that this is, I think, their 2-year mark when they started growing their membership program. So just under 2,000, I think they're over 2,000 now. But from this snapshot, they got just under 2,000 active membership patients, generating just under $50,000 in monthly recurring revenue, or over $500,000 in annual recurring revenue. Now this is just fees from membership plans. This doesn't count revenue from treatment. And with what we've been tracking in the industry, that patients spend 3 times more. So from my perspective, managing businesses, one metric that I think is very important for practices to understand is the average revenue per patient and what you can do to increase that, because that means you don't have to find new patients, but you can increase the revenue you get from your existing patients. One of the most powerful levers you have as business owners and practice managers is the average revenue per patient, and being able to optimize and increase that. Once you do that, you can generate more revenue with the same amount of patients. And then as you cut out PPOs, it's the same thing, generate more revenue with the same amount of patients. I call it revenue optimization. So this practice used direct mail marketing to attract local businesses, local small businesses to the membership program, and 55 and up communities. And they brought them in addition to their uninsured patients, which is, once again, the low hanging fruit. One thing that I do here at Boom Cloud for all my employees, like I said like Mark said in my intro slide, I hate dental insurance. All my employees, when they join, we have a practice down the street here that uses Boom Cloud, and we join his membership plan as one of his corporate members. And all my employees, as they get dental membership plans as one of their benefits for being employed with Boom Cloud. A lot of industries and small businesses are doing that. That's a wonderful way to get a lot of new patients signing up to your membership program. As you're cutting out PPOs, it's, you may be you may have patients that are business owners and have employees. You can start with them and switch them over to a membership program as you're cutting out PPOs, or the devil. You're cutting out the devil. We need to use that more. But these are some examples of what practices are doing and what can be done, for your practice. It's a simple strategy, but it does take a lot of effort and focus. but it can be done. I see practices achieve success with growing membership programs and cutting out PPOs every day here at Boom Cloud. It's one of my favorite things to see when a practice calls me and said, we just cut out another PPO and we're growing the membership program. I think it's one of the best strategies you can do for that. And who doesn't want to go to Hawaii and have revenue coming into the bank accounts, right, Mark?
Yeah, that's a lot of trips to Hawaii for 46 G's a month.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Right, or Florida, or Costa Rica, whatever you like, right? It's I say Hawaii because I like Hawaii. Free stuff. I got some free stuff for everybody for hanging out with us for an hour today. You can download the Fire the PPOs course. It's a detailed course that Ben and I go into on our website. Go to boomcloudapps.com. That's the long link here. I'll send it in an email. But go to boomcloudapps.com. There's a resource section on our website. You can find it there. What you're going to get with that is a cut out the PPOs checklist, Fire the PPOs course. It's about an hour long. A PPO termination letter template, a PPO termination target list, how to create your own membership program, all the details that we talked about here, and strategies to grow your membership program. We're putting the Boom Cloud University, which is a business course all about the concept of subscription revenue and memberships. It's like totally geeked out. It's awesome. And then we have a verbal training course on how to talk to patients about joining membership plans and cutting out PPOs and going out of network. A lot of resources there just in this little toolkit here. So make sure you get that. It's completely free. And then we got one thing for Mark here. Mark, you want to talk about your little free gift?
Yeah.
To everybody?
Yeah, if any of this stuff interested you that I spoke about for like 10, 12 minutes, this is a much more in-depth presentation. I was live on stage somewhere giving a keynote, and we were able to put together a fairly long case study and presentation. It's about this guy named Dr. Steve, real guy. He was able to triple his take-home income in 12 months utilizing some of the strategies that I talked about just really quickly earlier. So if you guys want a free link to this video, it's all about overhead, controlling overhead, tracking practice analytics, maximizing CEO time, and developing leadership skills, and leveraging the power of community for business and personal growth. Just go to Dental Success Network, which is my company, .com/triple. And you can get that link for free and enjoy the video.
Yeah, baby. And then I'm going to say this last, in addition to the course I'm giving, I recommend you go chat with our team, schedule a demo, look at our platform, what we're doing in the industry, and get a customized plan on how you can start and grow a membership program to help you combat the evil empire of PPOs. That was Star Warsy, right? The evil empire of PPOs.
That was good. I like
it. So, Pam, thanks for letting us chill today. And
thanks, Pam.
And yeah, this has been fun.
Well, I couldn't be happier to have you guys here. This was really interesting. I was like writing down feverishly as you guys were talking. There was a great question that came in. I know we have just a couple minutes left together. How does a membership plan affect your practice valuation?
Great question. So I didn't go too much in depth on that. I mean, you can spend days on a lot of this content that both Mark and I have. Maybe months, years. Let's add years. So according to John Warlow in his book, the monthly recurring revenue can be valued at, I think, like 25 times the monthly recurring revenue. So you're dealing with multipliers versus discounted cash flow valuations. I don't know if you're too familiar with the valuation methods. One of the reasons why I have everyone get that book, because it does go into detail talking about how recurring revenue can increase the value. But let me say in simple terms here, what is more valuable, one-time transactions or predictable recurring transactions that automatically come into your bank account? I think that's all you need to know. What I would rather have recurring revenue, think salaries versus like one-time projects. That's why recurring revenue is more valuable from a PE perspective, investor perspectives. I live here in Utah, where there's a lot of software companies that use the subscription revenue models, and valuations are crazy because of that.
And if you're speaking from just like a valuation standpoint of a dental practice,
Yeah.
if you have a mechanism that's going to allow you to convert more treatment plans, and people are buying more of your service, that's going to increase your revenue. Obviously, there's only two main ways to evaluate a dental practice. That's some given percentage of gross revenue, or a factor or a multiple of EBITDA. So if you're going to increase your revenue and control your overhead, that's going to increase that EBITDA number, and that's going to increase the multiple that PE or a private buyer is willing to pay. So that's going to increase the valuation for sure.
I have a question for Mark. You mentioned a PPO, maybe considering a PPO in your community, say the teachers, the police, the firemen, et cetera. It's not necessarily because they have quality PPOs. It's that you're willing to kind of take a hit for that demographic of person. Is that correct?
It's true. It's true. Because I mean, we love our veterans. We do tons of veterans outreach programs in all of my practices. And, typically the armed services don't do a great job with their PPOs, particularly for their veterans, but we'll still accept it because that's doing a service, that's providing a service for them. Also for our police and fire and teachers as well. Not always the best PPOs, but yes, we're willing to take a hit because we want to service that population.
So for those of you who've been with us the whole time, thank you so much. This was a great DE Solutions Lab. This is actually our last DE Solutions Lab for the rest of 2021. So this was a great way to end the year as far as I'm concerned. We've got a great lineup next year, so please keep an eye out for us. Yes, you will be able to watch this video again. It will be on the Dental Economics website, dentaleconomics.com. And then there's a bar across the top that says Solutions Lab, and you'll be able to find that there. I know there's a few people that joined on just at the end. They probably just finished with patients and rushed on, but don't worry, this will be available to you online. So don't worry about that. Jordan, Mark, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time tonight. I think that this was really helpful and educational. And of course, your energy is infectious. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Dr. Pam. You're awesome too. Have a great Christmas, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
rock and roll, everyone.
Happy holidays, everybody. Have a wonderful new year. Make your goals, keep your goals, and we will see you next year.
And cut out those PPOs.
And that too.